everybody? Welcome back to Daily Football Zone. I'm here with my co-hosts X, Dez, and Jake, who did not get to join us last week. So I'll let you start off. Jake, how you doing, man?
Good. Yeah, it's good to be back. Just hanging in there.
Right? Yeah, it's been a minute. It seems like we always take a hiatus. Free agency starts. It seems like we always come back. But
since the draft, I think, from last year.
Right, but now we're here to stay. We're gonna stay consistent, posting YouTube videos and posting content. That's the goal. We're here to stay because there's a lot of news that comes out and we need to talk about it. And I'm kind of upset because I don't have my mic out, but it's all good. We'll roll with my mic today. I just realized that. But yeah, Brown Brothers, how y'all doing?
All right.
Actually, as you talk, I'm on my mic. So whoever, if that's your Dez, how y'all doing?
Yeah, I was a little confused. It's always good to talk football with you guys. It's good to have Jake back. It definitely feels a lot more, a lot more of a presence here with 4 people rather than 3. The more the merrier. So it's all good.
Definitely keeps the conversation going, But then that's also sometimes can be a bad thing because then we hear all night, 2-hour plus videos.
Yeah, we all got something to say.
Nah, but let me see if I get this mic. I don't know if it sounds any different, but it's good to have a mic. But yeah, we'll start off with today's episode. It would be Derek Carr signing with the New Orleans Saints, and we were talking about Derek Carr last Monday we were on. Now we know where he's going. He's going to the New Orleans Saints. X, I'll let you start with your boy, and we can go around Des, and then Jake. We can go in that order, but I'll let y'all start since this was y'all boy for however many years it's been.
Yeah, I got you, man. Raiders fans, they'll convince you that this guy was the Antichrist. The reason Raiders haven't been winning any games. And it's true, we maybe potentially had to get better at the QB position, but with a team that has so many more needs than just quarterback, it's hard to really pinpoint, where the where the wins and losses are coming from. But for the Saints, I think this is a good get. People argue against you don't want to get a quarterback that's Derek Carr's caliber, just like a good, not great quarterback. But for them, I think it makes a lot of sense. They didn't have to give up any picks for Derek Carr. The Saints do have unlimited money. That's kind of how they roll. They don't care about salary cap. They don't care about any of that. So I think they'll be able to build a nice team around him. They already have pieces in place, have a solid defense, which Derek Carr's never really had in his career. But yeah, I think the main thing is that they were able to get him without trading any picks. They didn't give up really any assets. They did sign him to a pretty big deal. I think it was around $35 million-ish with $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah, it was like a 4-year, $150 million or something like that.
Yeah, and so
$60 million at signing.
They got away with that without giving any picks, and they're still able to build a team. They have most of their capital intact, and even for the salary cap, they don't have. The Saints always work around it. Mickey Loomis, incredible GM. So,
Yeah, big signing for New Orleans. Darian, how you feel about that?
Yeah, it's off. It's a pretty good choice. You didn't have this year, but you get that stability at the.
I think you might need to take off your AirPods, to be honest, Dez. I think that's what it is. Do y'all have problems hearing them?
Yeah, just a little bit.
It might be the AirPods. Yeah, see, because I heard a static, and I think it was from the AirPods. That's why you didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
Yeah, I was wondering what the static noise was. The AirPods kind of suck, though, with their speakers, so I would say maybe use your computer mic.
If you have any editing skills, Kev, it might be time to enforce that.
Right? Nah, I don't have any editing skills at the moment, but it's all good. It happens, man. We live, though. Not live, but we just rolling with it.
Yeah. We good now, though, or what?
Yeah.
You might want to re-explain what you said.
Yeah, back to what I was saying. He's walking into a good situation with a team that already has pieces on defense, pieces on offense, such as Chris Olave walking into his second year. He's got a great piece in Michael Thomas, who hasn't reached that form he had since he had that last great season about a few years ago. Yeah, but I think with Derek Carr, you can reinvigorate Michael Thomas and set up a scheme around him too.
He
There's
also
also
needs to
the
stay
other
healthy
fact
too.
that is also a fact. He's reuniting with Dennis Allen, his old coach, who he's familiar with as well. So I think that's a plus when it comes to, having a say in the offense and how things run in that regard. And he's going to get a lot of the things that the Raiders didn't give him, which is a top-tier defense, stability on the line, stability at other key positions. And I think that's going to be a big factor in his success. And a bold prediction for me is that I think he can probably make the playoffs year one in a, weak division, weak conference in the NFC South.
Okay. Man, that division is wide open when all the other teams' quarterbacks are in question. I mean, Atlanta might just stick with Ritter, but we'll see what Carolina does at quarterback, and then Tampa Bay as well. If they think Kyle Trask is their guy, or they might end up signing or trading or drafting one. Jake, you have any input on Derek Carr signing with New Orleans?
Well, I think you guys already touched on the main points, so I'll just add that the system that he's getting into, like the West Coast style offense, I think it really suits his style perfectly. He's got the weapons, like you said, assuming everyone can stay on the field.
And Kamara doesn't face a long suspension either. Can't forget about that.
Right.
He has his legal issues.
An MT, like we touched on already, and not just the division being weak, but the conference in general. Like you have Philly, you have San Francisco, maybe Dallas. I know the Giants are on the rise too, but other than that, you don't really have too many certified teams in the NFC that can really go on a deep playoff run. So for a team like the Saints, who I think are really still solid defensively, they still got a lot of veterans on the team, like Jordan and what's that corner's name? Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah,
Tyrann
Still
Mathieu too.
Still got some other good players on the team like Demario Davis. Still going strong as a veteran. An aggressive move by the Saints, and I think this tells me that they think they're more ready to compete than maybe the public thinks they are. So I like that they're making this move, and that they're not just going to lie down and just let the rest of the division, the conference, roll over them. They're going to go ahead and try and make a run these next couple of years. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that division right now is pretty much wide open. I mean, Tampa Bay won it last year at 8-9, being under 500. So, it's still wide open. And
the Saints get that 29th pick too. So
yeah, being able to get that trade for Sean Payton was huge. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the NFC South. That'll be a good one. See what the other teams do, what they decide to do at quarterback. As of right now, bringing in Derek Carr, I believe was a smart move by New Orleans due to the fact that they weren't going to probably draft a quarterback that's NFL ready, and Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton obviously haven't been the answer, and Taysom Hill obviously isn't the answer at quarterback either. He's the gadget guy, so I wouldn't want him as a full-time quarterback if I was the New Orleans Saints. So bringing in a veteran like Derek Carr, who has a lot of starts under his belt, trying to put him in a new scenery, see what he does in New Orleans compared to Vegas. Obviously, only 2 playoff appearances as their starting quarterback, only appearing in 1 playoff game out of those 2, though. But, maybe that's a fresh start he needs, similar like with Matthew Stafford going from Detroit to L.A. Maybe that's all Derek Carr needs, and we'll see what New Orleans does. But we can get into the next quarterback that broke some news today, more later news that came out tonight, which was Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks agreeing on a 3-year contract extension, $105 million to be exact. The 2022 Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, I don't know what he really came back from, but other than being mid, but I think it should be McCaffrey. It should be McCaffrey or Barkley, in my opinion. But
most improved Player of the Year, not Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, they gave him the Comeback Player of the Year, so I mean, good for him though. Getting $105 million for 3 years. I mean, me as a Panther fan, I'm kind of happy because I feel like obviously now they're not going to draft a quarterback at 5, so that can obviously be a trade potential, either with them or Arizona. I'm hoping for, if not first overall, which I don't think Chicago will go back to 9. So I feel like maybe like with Arizona or Seattle, we can make a trade, get one of the quarterbacks. But how do y'all feel about Seattle being their their guy for the next 3 years? I'll let you roll with it, Jake.
Well, I mean, and this move doesn't really surprise me, honestly. I knew he was not going to go anywhere. He was going to be a Seahawk. I think 3 years is good. I think the price is good. I think overall this done deal is a win for both sides, and I really hope Geno can continue to be the player that he was in 2022 for these next 3 years at least. And from 2013 and 20.
I think now his internet's
Locker.
lagging. Jake, you good?
And
All right, there you go. Coming back.
it's finally at it. Last year, it was a story for him, and I thought.
All right, I think Jake's. I feel like we'll all have internet problems tonight. 'Cause now
You
Jake's
guys should be.
I know, right?
All right, now you're kind of
Hello?
coming back. You kind of froze for a second. Now, until he gets back to normal, Dez, I'll let you roll with it.
Yeah, like Jake was saying earlier, I think it's a great move for both sides. I do wonder, at that number 5 spot, who do they take? Is Geno Smith the long-term answer, or is he just the answer for now? And what direction is their franchise trying to go in at this point? Are they trying to stack up on defense? Are they trying to make a playoff run with Geno? Do they think that they can with Geno? I think, maybe this deal kind of, it's very telling in that, maybe they do think they can make it with Geno. So I really do hope he can replicate that 2022 season. But, it's just kind of hard to tell, I do think, in the NFC, he probably has a better chance than if he was in the AFC. It's a weaker conference at this point. So if he can recreate that, I think it's a win for both sides. If he can't, then, that will tell on the field.
It's all good. We got Jake back, though. Good input, though, Darian, and welcome back, Jake. It's just one of those nights, I guess. We're going to roll with it, though. We ain't editing. We keep it pure, and
All right,
if it happens, it happens. But, we're glad to have you back.
All right, so
What were you saying, though? You might have to start from I'll let you start from the very top.
Do you remember the last thing I said? Before
You froze from the moment you started speaking. So you have to run it back from the top where you're talking about.
All right. Well, I was saying that I think this deal ultimately is a win for both sides, for Geno and for Seattle. I really hope Geno can continue the way he's been playing in 2022. It won't surprise me if they still take a quarterback at 5 because you hope not, but will they? I mean,
I don't think. I think if Geno does bad, say next year, then they end up in the top 5 to 10 or whatever again. I mean, there's gonna be some good quarterbacks in next year's draft where they can decide, okay, we're going with another quarterback.
but
In my opinion, I feel like they would do, but we'll see. Obviously,
unless Seattle has another top 5 pick next year, who are they going to get? Because Seattle's a pretty competitive team, and they're going to be pretty competitive next year, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. But the only way they're competitive is also if Geno Smith plays good. So I don't, he might be their guy if he is playing good. So we'll see.
I don't think he'll he's not going to end up being a disaster or anything. I don't see that happening. I think at the very least he'll be serviceable. Like, they may win games because of him, they also may lose games because of him. I think that's the worst case scenario for him at this point. So, with that said, how often do you get a top 5 pick?
True.
How often? I mean, especially if you're a team like Seattle, who's only had one losing season the last 10 years, I'm pretty sure, or 2. I mean, they've been a really successful franchise last decade, and they're really well ran with their GM John Snyder and Pete Carroll, the head coach. It's a very stable franchise overall. So with a team like that, considering those things, how can you get a top 5 quarterback or a top 5 pick? Never, right? So I think, and also they have the 20th pick, so you might as well just shoot your shot and just take one of these quarterbacks that are available. That's what I would do.
Okay. How about you, X? What are your thoughts on Geno Smith's contract extension?
Oh, I feel like most of you guys pretty hammered on most of the points I was going to say. Mainly just like stability with Geno Smith. Can he be the same player he was last season? So I guess I'll probably just piggyback on what Jake was saying, and maybe I'll offer, I don't know, maybe kind of refute that just a little bit. You know, I don't really see any of these quarterbacks in this class specifically as like the prototypical fit for that. You know, and an argument can be made with maybe like maybe Stroud potentially, but I'm not even sure if. But Seahawks, what number pick do they have?
Fifth.
5.
Oh, 5. Yeah. See, I'm not sure if he's going to be at number 5 for them, but I know Seahawks, they do run kind of like a variant of the Shanahan offense with Shane Waldron as their OC. So I think you have to keep that take that into account as well. I do agree, though. It could be, especially even with re-signing Geno Smith. Actually, I think it would make sense if they did draft a quarterback that could they don't have to see the field. So say like, you know, a Richardson, maybe a Levis,
or Hendon Hooker, maybe second.
Yeah, prospects that aren't really expected to see the field like week 1. That, you know, it could be a good swing, especially because they have that second first-round pick. And you had asked how often is Seattle going to get a top 5 pick? Well, as long as they still got those Denver picks, you know, you never know.
They might end up still having top 10.
I think they had their first last year, didn't they?
I think that.
And then they have their first this year. Next year,
Yeah.
That's
Do they have them?
Next year, no, they don't have them. They only got 2 picks.
Okay.
Oh, so the trade last season was pre-draft, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
true.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But
Another
yeah,
option they can do is trade back as well.
Yeah, pretty much. They honestly re-signing Geno actually gives them a lot of leg room for pretty much any direction they would want to go, whether it be draft a quarterback.
Best
I know,
fit or, you know, best available.
yeah,
or
they could
trading
pick
back
best
to get
player
more picks.
available. I know there hasn't really been too much smoke around Seattle drafting a quarterback, but that's a sleeper destination for any of the quarterbacks. So
And the
I think
thing
it's a
is-
cool thing to consider. But that's pretty much all I have to say on Geno Smith re-signing with Seattle.
Okay.
Is everybody gone yet?
Yeah, Desiree spoke. But yeah, we'll go into franchise tagged players, and first there's a couple, so we'll speak on Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. You know, he was given the franchise tag. He rushed for a career high with 1,653 yards and 12 touchdowns. You know, that being the rushing yard leader in the league. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler this year and in 2020. He was also named first team All Pro this year. Arguably the best back this year when it comes to rushing yards. You know, how do you guys? I know you, X and Des, being Raider fans, how are you guys feeling giving him the franchise tag, knowing that you guys declined his 5th-year option going into last year, to now giving him a franchise tag? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that move?
Darren, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the move, only because I feel like, you know, you got to have some loyalty to players. And he did have a career year. So franchise tagging him, I mean, I don't know. I think at worst you should sign him to a 2-3 year deal. You know, running backs, they don't last that long past 28. So I think you sign him 3 years, that's probably signing him for the rest of his career. And, you know, he doesn't have so many miles on him that you can't use him up to that point. But yeah, I just don't think it's like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the franchise tag in general. I don't think it gives players a lot of leeway. Especially a player like Josh Jacobs, who's pretty much was our entire offense last season, you know, setting career high numbers and stuff like that. I think, you know, you don't franchise tag a player like that.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, it's kind of a triple-edged sword. So, you know, you have your player who's playing like a top 3 back in the league, arguably. What is the right thing to do, right? So either you re-sign him to a longer-term deal, which people will look down on that. Nobody really is a fan of re-signing running backs nowadays.
Right.
Because the market is just, ever since that Ezekiel Elliott contract and even the Le'Veon Bell contract, there hasn't really been too many running back deals that had worked out in the long term. But you franchise tag them, right? And then it's still kind of, you know, you're shelling out a lot of money for 1 year, and you risk upsetting the player to where they wouldn't want to re-sign. And then say you just let them test the market, well, you're just letting go of a top 3 back for no reason. So I I don't really see what they could have done right in this scenario, but I kind of don't like the franchise tag either. I agree with Darian. Maybe try to sign him for a long-term deal, but shorter. So maybe like a 2-3 year contract, but like with an ability to have an out inside the contract. Obviously, it would take the player and his agent to both agree, which I'm not sure if Jacobs would agree to that, but I feel like that would be kind of like the best way to settle that. Maybe add some guarantees in there for a couple of seasons and hope for the best. But I feel like there's not really much you can do right in that situation. I wouldn't really say it's a good move, but I wouldn't really say it's like the worst thing ever. Is what it is.
How about you, Jake? What are your thoughts on that move?
It's pretty much what they said. Ultimately, I kind of have the same viewpoint as them. I'm just go ahead and add something about the franchise tag, though, for running backs. And that's, I think the league should do something about that and not allow it so that it forces teams to either let them go so that they can get paid somewhere else or have them stay with the team and then pay them. Because, like we all touched on, running backs don't have a very long career span in the NFL.
And they get replaced pretty easily.
Right.
These days.
So I think for this position specifically, get rid of the tag completely and just allow these guys to get paid, on like a multi-year deal, worth some money, whether it's with their current team or with a new team, and don't just keep having them on these 1-year tags, year after year.
I believe the tag was at $10.1 million for running back, I believe.
I think so.
So that's what Tony Pollard got, so I'm assuming it's the same.
I remember listening to Jacobs in an interview during Super Bowl week. I think it was with Pro Football Talk with Florio and Sins, and he said some. I could be wrong, but I think he said something about retiring by 30, just so that he can, be able to function daily life, so he doesn't get beat up too much and all that. So, how old is he right now?
25.
Yeah, I believe he's around 25 years old.
Okay, yeah. So I hope I hope he gets. I'm sure he'll get a contract elsewhere, or at least maybe with the Raiders next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or midway through the year, they'll give him an extension or something.
But yeah, this whole retire by 30 thing. That's pretty much the epitome of running backs nowadays. And some of these guys don't get their money, and and they take all these hits, for what? At the end of the day, it's sad to see. So I hope they do something about this franchise tag thing for this position specifically.
Yeah.
I hope Jacobs keeps balling out just so that he can.
Yeah. Well, speaking of running backs getting franchise tag, Tony Pollard was another one, but it was set at $10.1 million. So I'm assuming Jacobs got the same. Pollard also rushed for career highs and also caught career highs. He rushed for 1,007 yards and 9 touchdowns, which were career highs for Pollard. He also caught 39 receptions for 371 yards and 3 touchdowns, which were also career highs in the pass game. It'll be intriguing to see what they do because Ezekiel Elliott's future is going to be up in the air with a $16.7 million cap hit next season. And that also means Dalton Schultz will hit the free agency market. He was their franchise tag last year. Tony Pollard had a good year, and obviously Ezekiel Elliott's going to be on his way out. It's just when is that going to be? I don't know what kind of contract they were trying to work on with Tony Pollard, but I guess the franchise tag keeps him for another year. What are your thoughts, X, on this move by Dallas?
I think it really shows how much impact they think that Tony Pollard makes for their team. It's as you said earlier, they chose to tag him over Dalton Schultz, Dalton Schultz was a really valuable part of their receiving core. I know I believe he had dealt with a couple injuries last season, no? I think it's for the team. Like I said, I'm not really a big fan of the franchise tag just in general. For the team, I guess it's a good thing. They retain their most explosive back from last season. Zeke, he's a good back, even to this day. People will say he's washed. I don't think he's washed. I think he's still a good back. He's just not the same Zeke as his rookie season. And these running backs, they only have, so much shelf life. So,
yeah,
like I said,
he's not playing at a $16.7 million level.
Exactly. Yeah. That contract single-handedly inflated, the running back market nowadays, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the tag for players. So for the team, I think I guess on-field success, it's a good thing for the player, Tony Pollard. I can't help but feel a little bad because it's just like trapping a player kind of, and it wouldn't be that bad, but it's a running back to where this is a whole like year of their career that they'll never get back. And
But
they're
you're
not
getting
gonna
10.1 million. That's nice, but if you get hurt and suffer a torn ACL, you're not going to touch something like that. Come
Ever.
the contract
Yeah, I
you
would
get,
say it's a career killer if any during any unforeseen circumstances. So yeah, I think for the Cowboys it's cool. They got their guy from last season. He really contributed. He stepped up, especially like they ran the running back by committee, and he was really good complement to Zeke. He's like a downfield bruiser. That's Zeke, and then you got Tony Pollard. He has all the juice. Could score from anywhere of the field. So I think it's a good move for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And I'll agree with what X said. I think it's a great move for the Cowboys. I don't think it's the best move for Tony Pollard, but what can you do when you have a franchise tag? What I will say, though, is that I think, for the last few seasons, we've seen Zeke kind of decline. And like you said, he has that $16 million cap hit. I wonder if they explore options to maybe trade Zeke and, explore signing Tony Pollard for maybe a couple years. That's what I would have liked to see for sure. We've seen Tony Pollard be the better back, in my opinion, at least, over the last 2 seasons too. Like X was saying, he has the juice still. It's just running back.
I think it's the AirPod, Des. I think it's that AirPod. I think you just need to roll with your computer. Because I think now you're gonna sound better too, to be honest.
We're using 90s technology today.
Now, what were you saying though, Des?
Yeah, no, my computer mic is really bad too, so I might just have to.
I think it sounds better than the AirPod, man.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, no, like I was saying, I think Tony Pollard has been the better back. I would have liked to see them get a long-term deal, at least a 2-3 year deal done with him, and maybe use him and Zeke as a committee back like they did last season and try to get an even further playoff push. But overall, yeah, I think it's a great thing for the Cowboys to bring him back. Keeps the chemistry in the locker room, and keeps the team that was in the playoffs still in the playoffs and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. We had another, this was already known, but it was officially today, which was Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram. He caught a career high in catches, which was 76, and receiving yards, 766. He was a pivotal piece, especially in that playoff game against the Chargers. Jake, how you feel about, Evan Ingram staying in Jacksonville for at least one more year? Do you think they draft a tight end, or he's going to be eventually signed to a multi-year deal? What are your thoughts on this move?
I don't know why they didn't sign him a multi-year deal this year. I don't know why they went with the tag. I thought he was worthy of at least, some 3-year deal.
Right.
I mean,
he had a career high in receptions and yards.
And I think, ultimately, even over Christian Kirk, he was the most effective receiving weapon offensively, at least in my opinion. And personally, I've always liked Evan Ingram. I always thought he had that ability. I just didn't
better scenery.
I just didn't think he was ever a good fit in New York. It just the way they've been using tight ends for the past however long just didn't suit Evan Ingram's style. They like those guys that can get down in the dirt and block, and that's just not Evan Ingram. He's a receiving threat, or you can call him like a big slot, as like some would say, or maybe kind of like that Kelsey role in Kansas City, where he's not exactly in a 3-point all the time, but he's like line up in a 2-point on the inside, and he's just using his size to box out safeties and slot corners and whatnot. And clearly Jacksonville unlocked Evan Ingram, and they used him for what he was actually good at. So
yeah, Jacksonville hasn't had a serviceable tight end in a while too. So
Giants.
Don't you disrespect James O'Shaughnessy like that?
Who? Who?
Man. And then well, obviously the development of Trevor Lawrence also helped him out as well. Because I mean, Lawrence is just a guy that can push the ball downfield 20+ yards, and he has the confidence to fit it in tight windows, and he trusts his receivers to get it. And Evan Ingham, improved his hands drastically this year. I think that was the one thing that really jumped out to me, because I knew he could run, and I knew he was athletic, but could he fix up the hands this year? I mean, that was going to be huge, so that he can get those stats up and decrease the drops and et cetera, and he did just that. So as far as the tag goes, I wish he got his deal this year, but I think he'll be just fine for another year of production, and hopefully the Jags will sign him to a multi-year deal off-season 2024.
Yeah, I could see them still. I know I mentioned drafting a tight end. I could see them maybe drafting a tight end if one's there. I think they're 24th or 25th pick this year.
24th, yeah.
24th. If someone like Mayer or Kincaid is there, I feel like they can use double tight end sets in Jacksonville with Lawrence. We'll see what they decide to do there, though. But one player that did not get the franchise tag was offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. A 4-time Pro Bowler. Just won his first Super Bowl with Kansas City. He was traded from Baltimore to Kansas City. This will be interesting to see how the Chiefs' offensive line is going to look in the future, because the right tackle Andrew Wiley is also set to be a free agent this year, and then All-Pro center Creed Humphrey and All-Pro guard Joe Thuney are also due for contracts next year. So it's going to cost a lot of money to bring back these linemen. Obviously, Orlando Brown likely will probably be gone, and then they have a whole right tackle as well. And then that inside of their, the inside line is also going to be a concern come next year. So, you guys being AFC West natives, what are your thoughts? Is Patrick Mahomes going to be under duress this year?
And the Chiefs, they always find a way. To be honest, they won the Super Bowl, but there were times last season where Orlando Brown Jr. was a liability. He found his way out of the Ravens because he didn't want to be paid right tackle money. He wanted the left tackle money instead. He wanted the Chiefs, and he's always been a dominant run blocker. Always been a dominant run blocker. That's the best part of his game. But he does tend to get beat by speedier edge rushers, and he's a franchise left tackle. He's good. I wouldn't say he's elite. I wouldn't say he's great, but O-line town is so hard to come back to find inside the league, and so it'll be hard maybe for the Chiefs to replace him. But the Chiefs usually are really good with filling spots. Whether it be with veteran players, drafting a player that could fill in for left tackle. I tend to think they'll be fine. They'll be, and like I say, I hate to say it, I'm a Raiders fan.
We all thought they were going to take a step down this past season. Obviously, they still found a way to win the Super Bowl. So, you wouldn't surprise if they find some protection from Mahomes.
Yeah, he'll find a place in free agency to go to. There's a lot of O-line needy teams, tackle needy teams in specific. O-linemen are hard to come by. He's going to get a big contract elsewhere. But for the Chiefs, they might take a step down in their protection, but I don't think it'll be. I'm not sure what the tag number is looking like for tackles, but I don't think it'll be worth all that. So I think it's cool that they didn't tag him. I think it's also better than signing him to a long-term deal because, like I said, he's a good, not great guy. You probably would have been overpaying for him. So I think it's a good move for the Chiefs.
Yeah, they can use that money somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, you want to keep on? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. I don't think it will be too detrimental to them. I mean, we saw them lose players like Tyreek Hill last year, and look what they did. They won a Super Bowl, with less at the wide receiver position. I think one thing the Chiefs do is they really, mask up their flaws really well. Their defense at times, not always the greatest, but they have players in key spots that really bring a big impact. So I think, if they continue to find players to fill that spot, such as at the tackle spot, or any of the other O-line spots, I think ultimately that will benefit the Chiefs. I think signing players to big contracts for the Chiefs at this point, when you have to pay Mahomes, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and all these other pieces on your team, I don't think it's a smart decision to sign big contracts to players who, you don't need to win. You know, when you have Mahomes, you know, you're gonna be in most games anyway. So.
Well, we'll get into Frank Clark in a second, but we can get into some more news, which is the NFL reinstating Jaguars wide receiver Calvin Ridley. As you know, he was suspended all last year and then missed time in 2021 due to personal reasons. So he hasn't seen the field in a while, and then ended up getting traded to Jacksonville. Jake, how's that offense going to look with Calvin Ridley added to that group?
Well, we'll see how Calvin Ridley looks like by training camp time, preseason time. We'll see if he can get himself into game shape quickly enough to, get himself ready for the beginning of the regular season this year. I'm sure he's been working out a ton. I'm sure he's getting himself prepped and ready for the year. He obviously had his personal issues, and not just with the gambling, but he was going through some tough things and just needed some time away from the game. And it seems like he's ready to come back and he's ready to step on the field and make some things happen. This is a receiver that Jacksonville needs, a guy that can beat guys on the outside with just pure explosive suddenness and can just dominate guys on routes with a combo of speed and quickness. You have Kirk, who I think is suited mainly for the inside, like he's a slot, motion weapon kind of guy, and then Ridley is gonna be the guy that can take the boundary corner and he can just route him up, and Trevor can find him on back shoulder fades and on like post routes deep down the middle and stuff like that. What was I forgetting? I hope Calvin Ridley just comes back and he just gets back to where he was before. I think it was 2020 when he had that really good year, and then 2021 was when all that stuff happened. So I hope he gets to that 2020 level of himself that he was before, and I hope all that rest this past year or so has done him some good.
Yeah. The only other thing. The only other thing I add to that is that, Calvin Ridley is kind of getting up there in age too. I think he's around 28. Yeah, 28, 29. But like you said, he had that whole year of rest, so that's less miles on him. So ultimately, I think it's going to be a win for Trevor Lawrence. Give him more weapons, so he can show the league what he can do. We've already seen it with the weapons he already has. So I think adding Calvin Ridley, a rested one hopefully, will just be a bigger benefit to the future of Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back. You go from Atlanta in that situation now to a promising team in Jacksonville with a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, and you have a good run game, and you have some talent around them with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, and see what they do in the draft. It'll be that's gonna be a team to watch in general next year, in my opinion. I feel like they got some exciting ball. Doug Peterson got something brewing down there. Turns out that was a good head coach hiring for him. So yeah, we'll see what happens down there in Jacksonville. That's their division to win. But we can get some players to be cut news. Obviously, there's a lot, so I'll kind of run through them before we let each of you have your input on these guys. But Vikings are expected to release veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks. That saves them $9.5 million. He was a Pro Bowler and first team All-Pro in 2019. He recorded 919 tackles with Minnesota, so he's been there for a minute. Edge rusher Bud Dupree is getting released by the Titans, who expected to be released. He signed a 5-year deal worth $82.5 million back in 2021, so obviously he didn't live up to what their expectation was out of him. Obviously, he's been injured majority of the 2 seasons with Tennessee, only playing in 22 games, starting 17 of those, and he was due $17 million. So I understand that being the reason why they're cutting him, because that's a lot for the production that he's been giving them, because he's only had 7 sacks in 2 seasons with Tennessee. So I'm not surprised by that move whatsoever. But another edge rusher was Rams are gonna expected to release edge rusher Leonard Floyd. He spent the last 3 seasons in LA, recorded 29 sacks, and he had more than 9 sacks in each of those seasons. Creates $3 million in cap space, but $19 million in dead money. If it's a post June 1st designation, though, it does create $15.5 million in cap space. So we'll see when they decide to do that. Yeah, another edge rusher, which I said we're going to talk about, is Frank Clark. He's also expected to be cut. Yeah, he had 23.5 sacks with Kansas City in 4 seasons. 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champs with the Chiefs. So he's going to draw a lot of free agency interest this in a week or so when the free agency starts. And then we got linebacker Damian Wilson. Saves Carolina $3.6 million. He signed a 2-year deal worth $6.9 last year. So obviously that was probably a Matt Rule regime guy. They obviously don't want him, and they're gonna save money on that. And he was also had assault accusations come up last year. He was accused of beating up his girlfriend, or something like that, and like tortured her cat. It was something weird, but he's out of there. And then the Cardinals are making some moves, releasing center Rodney Hudson, who they got from Vegas, 2 years ago in 2021, I believe it was. And then they also traded for now chosen or Robbie Anderson, who they traded for last year, gave up like a 6th-round pick or something random like that. So yeah, that was a lot of news to go over. X, I'll let you start off with this one. What are your thoughts on all these moves?
Yeah, I have 3 quick things. One, I never saw Bud Dupree working out. It's so crazy because that's one of those signings that I had looked at and I was just like, yeah, I think he's a good player, but every year you see one of these Marcus Golden type players, these Big Beasley types players. The good not great edge rushers. I don't know. I felt like I saw Bud Dupree's career going this way in Tennessee. It was just a gut feeling. And who knows who the next one will be. I even with I know a name I wanted to say was Dante Fowler Jr. or even Leonard Floyd sometimes. So yeah, I think a lot of these guys mostly they're just cap casualties, veterans that haven't really played up to what they used to, or what they're just kind of what they're getting paid. So it makes a lot of sense for most of these players. I wouldn't say there's an egregious one out there. I know Frank Clark was a really big contributor, and that one is a little surprising. But besides that, I feel like it's justified for a lot of these players. And another thing I had wanted to say, 2 other things, and I hate making this about the Raiders all the time, but do we remember when John Gruden got so much hate for blowing up the O-line when he got rid of Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and who was the other one? There was another guy, but
I think there's another guy.
Yeah, so it was Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and
yeah, I remember those 2 names for sure. I think there was another guy. I remember there's like 3.
Not Donald Penn, right?
No, Penn had retired at the time.
Is it Richie Incognito?
Was it Richie Incognito?
I think it was Richie.
Richie was one of his guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he had stuck a little longer. Either way, I don't know. I remember it being 3 guys, but none of those guys did anything after leaving the Raiders. So I don't know. I think that whole thing was overblown. And then 3, what a fall off for Robbie Anderson, or Chosen Anderson as he goes by now.
Whatever you want to call him. At
yeah,
this point.
It sucks because there was times with the Jets where he looked like a legitimate. Yeah. I wouldn't say number 1, but he could be a great number 2 in the league.
Even with Carolina, his first year with Teddy Bridgewater, he put up 1,000 yards, like 95 catches.
Yeah, so, and I remember he had a pretty good game against the Raiders week 1. Just a random memory, but yeah, it kind of sucks. There was a lot of times in his career where you thought this could be a legit deep threat, high end number 2 guy, and it just might it be character issues, might it be whatever. I think everything plays a factor. It just never worked out. So it sucks to see. Maybe one of these days he could find his footing. I wouldn't even blame him if he went to the XFL. They got some receivers having some
USFL.
Yeah, you got your John Trey Kirklands, your Josh Gordons in that league. So
Geronimo Allison.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where he goes on from here. I'm not sure if he has too much interest in the NFL anymore, but yeah, that's all I really.
Tell me why I think I could see him being a Raider guy.
Hey, you never.
I could see him signing to the Raiders before going to the XFL.
You never know what Josh McDaniels is gonna do. The same mastermind that got Tim Tebow, his guys. So you never know.
I don't know. I feel like the Raiders would be the next move for him. But I guess we'll see. I know Daz was shaking his head, man. What are your thoughts on these guys that are expected to be cut? All of them veteran players.
Man, y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know who Robbie Anderson, Chosen Anderson, thinks he is, because he for sure is not Ochocinco with that name change. And Montez, like X was saying on the Jets, he might have shown a little bit, but he's not that caliber of player to me to be doing all that.
He's not him.
One thing I do want to highlight is key losses. I think, a key loss is Leonard Floyd. Like you said earlier, bro put up like 29 sacks, in 4 seasons with the Rams. He was a real threat off the edge for them. I think it does save them cap, and they're one of those like cap needy teams. They have to pay a lot of players. But I do think ultimately it will be a loss on the edge, and they'll have to find someone to replace that. And back to the other edge, Frank Clark. I think, if Chiefs do cut Frank Clark and they do not sign him back, I think that will be a big hole for them to fill during the offseason. And, that's another situation where the team has to think about their cap moving forward, paying Pat Mahomes so much money. So I think those are 2 key losses that those teams will be having to deal with in the offseason. It's going to be, I'd like to see what they'll do to replace those players.
Yeah, man, they got George Karlaftis in the draft last year at edge. I mean, even at 31, because Miami don't got a pick. Even at 31, they can get the edge guy there too if someone is there that they like. You can always use enough edges as you can get because that's a valuable position. But yeah, we'll see what Kansas City decides to do. It's most likely he's on his way out. I don't think they came up with I think I read that they're not coming to terms with the contract, so he'll most likely hit the market. How about you, Jake? I know Bud Dupree was once your guy. Y'all bringing him back?
Probably not. I mean,
Like
unless he takes some cheap deal, I don't think he's gonna come back.
Not for 5 years, $82.5 million.
No, and he was never worth that much, or at least I didn't think. I thought he was a good edge rusher, and he was good when he was paired with TJ Watt. But to be paid as the main guy for a defense, that's not what he's supposed to be. And I think Tennessee had too high of expectations.
Yeah, because going into that year, they were like really bad on their front. On their D line, all they had was Jeffrey Simmons, and they needed a pass rush. So they thought Bud Dupree had a career year before, and it was like, we're gonna pay this guy top dollar.
And then it became Harold Landry's edge throne to sit on, and it wasn't Bud Dupree, which I think most of us saw it coming, right? I mean, like you thought that was gonna happen with Bud, and I kind of thought that was gonna happen as well. I want to touch on Frank Clark a little bit. I think it makes sense if the Chiefs let him go because of how good this edge class is. I know they're at pick 31, but you can still get a really decent, late first round, early second round worthy edge rusher at 31. I mean,
Miles Murphy, might you say?
You think he falls? You think he's gonna fall at 31?
I don't know if he falls that far.
I don't. I'm not sure.
From LSU.
Miles feels like a middle of the draft guy. I don't know. This may be Nolan Smith territory.
Nolan Smith.
I don't know. I mean, he kind of matches Frank Clark's like finesse, speed rush type of style. And Frank Clark isn't the biggest guy. He's like what 240, 250 something. And Nolan Smith's like 240. So
he had a fast 40.
And and he's fast. He's fast just like Frank Clark. So they kind of match play styles that way. So this might be Nolan Smith territory. I mean, he wore red at Georgia. Could be wearing red in KC. Who knows?
Not that far of a jump to move from Georgia to Missouri.
I don't know what Seattle's cap is looking like, but could a return to Seattle be imminent for Clark? I don't know.
They can use another edge.
I don't know what the cap is looking like after the Geno contract. I know that prior to the contract, they were sitting at $24 million. I don't know where it's at.
At this point, I don't even think the cap exists.
might free up some cap for this season, I believe, actually.
They may need to restructure some.
The cap don't exist anymore. People just reconstructure and push everything back. It's going to get
Rams.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs and Rams defied the laws of
Saints too. Don't forget
Wizards.
about the Saints.
Yeah,
The Saints are always at like minus
Right,
7.
and they still signed Derek Carr. So
The Saints are always at like minus like 700,000 billion.
all right, I think they're the reason for this.
Yet they somehow make it work.
All right. Yeah, man. So yeah, some key veterans hitting the market. I'm sure there's gonna be more probably tomorrow, probably the next day or the next day. We'll see what happens this week heading into free agency as teams are trying to clear cap to bring in new guys. But we can get into some rumors that were circulating today, and that was Tennessee Titans shopping Derrick Henry, who's also about to be up for a contract, and then Broncos quietly shopping wide receiver Cortland Sutton. We all know Derrick Henry's resume. 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a first team and second team All-Pro guy. He was the Offensive Player of the Year in 2020. He rushed for another 1,500 yards last year and put up 13 touchdowns. So no doubt, teams will probably give him a call. If not, we'll see how that pans out when it comes to him getting a new contract from either Tennessee or a different team. And then Cortland Sutton, quietly shopping. People think Jerry Jeudy is also a guy that could be traded. We'll see what happens with Denver, what Sean Payton does with that. But what are your thoughts on these rumors?
I mean, Judy was a guy that was on the market mid-season last year, right as the trade deadline was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting plenty of calls from teams like the Giants, the Packers may have been involved. I think I don't know what the Broncos are expecting to get out of trading Cortland Sutton at this point because he's not exactly coming off a career year or anything.
No, only 829 yards receiving, 64 catches, 2 touchdowns. But that was just that whole scenario was pretty bad in Denver.
The offense was terrible. It was, and it was just a whole disaster for everybody.
He's also coming back from an injury as well.
The year before,
he does have an injury history. Yeah, correct. But you got Sean Payton, right? You trade that pick away for Sean Payton, and I think that's a good deal, by the way. You got Russ, who's a veteran, and I'm sure Denver is just going to put all their chips in and trust in Sean Payton's process to kind of lead him on like a Drew Brees kind of path and just, run a West Coast offense where Russ doesn't need to, do a tremendous amount, like from outside the pocket and whatnot. But to do that, you need weapons, don't you? So, I don't know. I mean, receiver is something you can do in the second round and third round and whatnot. But, you got to keep at least one of these guys, right? I'm assuming it's going to be Judy. I'm assuming it's going to be the younger guy who's still on the rookie deal. So
yeah. I still don't see I don't even think to me personally, I don't think we've seen Judy's true potential the way he could be. Each year he's been, with Denver, it's been pretty much a shitty situation at quarterback, and then you thought you were going to see it last year, and obviously you have Nathaniel Hackett, head coach, and Russell Wilson being a letdown. I still think, it hasn't, been able to show his true potential. And I'll see what happens this year with Sean Payton coming in and see if Russell Wilson can go back to at least a good playing level and not mid or mediocre, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, X or Des, whoever wants to go next, man, what are your thoughts on these rumors?
I got you. Yeah, I think both of them, obviously it's not the end of the world or anything. I think both of them are pretty unfortunate though. If it holds true, Tennessee shopping Derrick Henry, he will go down as one of the franchise players for the Titans. Even he's cemented his legacy already. I think they'll end up holding on to him for this season because he's not slowing down too much. Maybe he's not rushing for 2,000 yards as he did in 2020. But he still has.
He came back from injury, still put up 1,500.
Yeah, I was gonna say he still has some fuel in the engine. So, yeah, and I think he's honestly still to this day. They're not really too talented at the receiver position. They have Traylon Burks and not much else. They got rid of Robert Woods.
The quarterback situation still up in there.
Yeah, you got a Tannehill, but his injury history is not looking well. I just think
look iffy. So.
Yeah, right now they don't have too much stability in most other positions on offense, so I think it wouldn't be the greatest thing to trade Derrick Henry at this point. And as for Cortland Sutton, I would think it would be pretty unfortunate too if they ended up trading him. At least for Denver's sake, he was coming off injury last season. It was a shit show in Denver. not much went right offensively. If anything, you got solid tight end play from your rookie, but besides that, I don't think any players were put in the position to succeed. And even Cortland Sutton, he's coming back from injury, so I think Sean Payton too. He's the type where he fits players into his scheme, where he builds the scheme around the players. So I think, assuming Cortland Sutton bounces back from injury, he has a place in the offense. He's Jerry Jeudy's really talented, but Cortland Sutton's a little bit more of a known commodity. He's had that 1,000-yard receiving season. He's been a legit receiving threat. So, like I said, I think it would be pretty unfortunate if they trade him. I don't really see what they gain by trading him. I know they gave up a lot of capital for Russell Wilson. Maybe they want to get some of that back, but I don't really think
they're also getting Tim Patrick back from injury. I mean, we'll see how he pans out coming back from that. He was a serviceable guy the year before.
Yeah, he was a really solid
Utah legend, San Diego native Tim Patrick.
He was a really solid possession receiver for them. Even Cortland Sutton too. He's a possession receiver as well, but he has a little bit more juice than I think Tim Patrick has. Tim Patrick is a lot more reliable, I think, than a lot of receivers in the league. But Cortland Sutton, at full health, he was putting up numbers with Joe Flacco at quarterback and Drew Lock. So, like I said, I think it's both of these. Say if they end up trading the players, it'd be pretty unfortunate. But not the end of the world, I guess.
Yeah. Something I want to add. It doesn't surprise me that Broncos are shopping Cortland Sutton, and I wouldn't be surprised if they begin to shop more players because year prior they lost a bunch of picks from the Russell Wilson trade. So, Sean Payton, looking to the future, I think he's going to try and get some of those picks back, and try and recoup those in order to make his team a little more successful, clear up some cap space while he does that. I think Sean Payton has his team for the, very near future. And I think, like I said before, I would not be surprised if they start shopping other players or, looking into other types of trades. So the Cortland Sutton one doesn't surprise me at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if they shop others. The Derek Henry one is a little surprising only because, like X was saying earlier, we've all seen his resume. He's been a staple part of the offense. The one thing it does make me question is the direction of the franchise. Are they going into rebuild mode? Are they going into reload mode? What's up with the quarterback position? So those are kind of some of the things I think about when I think about Derrick Henry being shopped. I do ultimately agree that I think he will stay there, because I think he can still be an effective piece of that offense. But it makes me question the direction of the Titans franchise at this point.
It feels like
I mean, I could see them maybe just trying because maybe they don't want to pay him because he's up for a contract, I believe, next year. So maybe they want to get a high pick out of that and then have somebody else decide, what contract he's going to get. And maybe they're just trying to fill some holes to be able to compete in that division because it looks like it's going to be Jacksonville's for the taking, probably, I would assume. Obviously, Indy and Houston are still rebuilding, so it's really up to Tennessee to compete with Jacksonville. So maybe they're trying to, maybe get if not a first, a second-round pick, and maybe just bring in a rookie running back or bring in a veteran running back if someone like Zeke gets cut and they want to bring in Zeke. So obviously, running backs are easily replaceable. It seems like these days. So it'll be interesting to see if these rumors come to light. I mean, if there's rumors, obviously, rumors are rumors. Sometimes it can happen, sometimes it don't. But it'll be interesting to see. We'll obviously stay tuned to that. But before we head out tonight, we got a couple more things to talk about, and that is the NFL scouting combine that just happened in Indianapolis. Speaking of Indianapolis, this just happened. Thursday? This past Thursday to Sunday. So always a good time of year. A lot of people like to overreact, obviously, when it comes to combines and pro days, because obviously people can have a good pro day or a good combine and still not be obviously that good, and then some could have a bad combine and like Tom Brady, for example, and still be a freaking Hall of Famer. So I don't give a damn really when it comes to combines and pro days. It doesn't matter about Zach Wilson or Malik Willis throwing the ball in the middle of the air to open receiver. To me personally, it's just about if you care about the height and the size, and to me it's the game tape that matters the most. But we'll go into losers and winners, obviously. So combine winners. Jake, who were some of your combine winners?
Well, just for starters, all the guys that got invited, props to them for getting the invite and for getting the chance to showcase to the world that, they belong in the NFL and, showing what these GMs and scouts and the coaches what they can do. So, everyone that got invited, whether you're a 5-star prospect or, from like a small D2 school, props to you and hope you make it and hope you make something in your career. As far as like legit winners goes, Donald Washington was a big one for me. I knew he was going to show out, but I think he even exceeded expectations for me. Honestly, I didn't think he was going to run a 4.65 40. I thought he was going to be somewhere
in that big frame, being what 6'6", what 260 or so.
11-inch hands.
He got some big hands.
That's Trayvon Walker last year. I thought he had massive hands, but my God, Washington, he's just I don't even know he's from Earth. I mean, this dude is just. I mean, he's built like a Adonis. He's a monster. My God. And then Nolan Smith just exploded onto the scene. It felt like he was, like a couple of years ago, it felt like he was a big name on the rise, and then ended up playing like a full 4-year career, and then just kind of.
Except for the injury, I remember right.
He kind of fell behind the likes of Will Anderson, Miles Murphy, and Tyree Wilson, guys like them. But he put his name back out there with a 4.39 40, and just exploding at the combine. And then Anthony Richardson, some combines just speak for themselves. I mean, there's no need to get into him. We all know how great he was. I do want to touch on CJ Stroud though, and his passing session. I thought he had, at least from my eyes, one of the better passing sessions that I've seen from a combine. And I started watching the combine, I think it was in 2011. That was like my first combine that I was watching. I thought Stroud had one of the best passing sessions I've seen. He was just smooth, on point with every throw. His footwork was great. And I don't like to overreact to the combine. It's, just like you said, Caleb, I don't really use the combine for anything more than just does the combine and all that testing, does it match?
Yeah, especially when it comes to the quarterbacks,
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously, how you play in the game and pads is what's most important. Anyone can, throw a pass in shirt and shorts. But, I mean, Stroud legit looked good. And I thought he was the most impressive passer on the day. What else am I missing? So I'll let you guys go ahead. Those are my winners for right now, unless I think of somebody else.
I can go next. Also, I wanted to preface this by saying I'm not sure. So there was this player on the Eagles like a long time ago. I believe it was in the same draft as Warren Sapp, and he was picked the pick before Warren Sapp. I wish I had the name in my mind. But he had trained specifically for the combine drills. He had a trainer train him specifically on how to get the best results for the 40, the bench press, 3-cone, all of the combine drills, and he ended up just smashing the combine, like having an all-time. I'm gonna search this up. Hold up.
Oh, I got him. You
got it?
Mike Mamula.
Yeah, Mike Mamula. He ended up getting picked, the draft pick before Warren Sapp, and he wasn't a bad player, but he wasn't really,
Or the Derek Alexander. He was the one that from Minnesota was before Warren Sapp.
Oh, maybe he was picked a couple picks before then. Maybe not directly.
Yeah, Mike Mamula was 7th. Warren Sapp was 12th.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was Mike Mamula though, and yeah, it just goes to show like the combine, it doesn't mean all. You could be the greatest athlete in the universe and still not be great at football, and even the inverse. You could be great at football, but not good in drills like that. But as for my combine winners, I guess I have. So I'll preface this by saying too, for my combine winners and losers, I'm gonna be using both wide receivers for this. But for my combine winners, there's 2 wide receivers in specific that I'd really like coming into the draft, and I think they had a good showing. One being Zay Flowers. At the combine, he had some really explosive times, and he looked smooth in all the drills as well. I believe he ran a 4.42 40, which is really fast. And then especially for Zay Flowers, who could separate really good, out of Boston College. For somebody who could separate as good as him, it's cool to know that his speed backs up what we see on tape. And for Jordan Addison, it's a little bit different of a story. I think he looked good in all of the drills. He ran a 4.55 40, if I'm not mistaken, which isn't the greatest time, but like I'm not really. The game speed says otherwise to me, and so I think as long as you look good in the drills and stuff, and even as Jake was saying, I don't think it's it's for just measuring how good a player is, just how much those measurements are backed up by the game film, and how much the game film is backed up by the measurements. And I think a lot of it is just finding that good scheme fit for what you want on your team. I know there's a lot of GMs there. They're looking at is this guy fast enough to play this position in my defense, or is this guy strong enough to play this position in my defense? So I think like Jake said, everybody's a winner here. But Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers, those are high impact guys that receivers I think that are going to contribute well in day one. Having a rookie season akin to like a Chris Olave, just guys that could separate really well.
Yeah, how about you, Dez? Any notable winners you want to point out?
Yeah, a shout out to all the players you guys mentioned: Nolan Smith, Anthony Richardson. They had really strong combines. A player I do want to highlight is another receiver, Jackson Smith Najiba, wide receiver at Ohio State. I think he looked great in his drills at the combine. He's a wide receiver coming in great size at 6'1". I think he's almost like 200 pounds, and he didn't run the 40, but you could tell by his drills he's really fast. He did shuttle drills, I believe, and 3-cone drills. And in a class where the wide receivers aren't as talented, in my opinion, I think he's one of the better options. And I think there's a solid case you can make for him to be, maybe even the first wide receiver taken off the board, maybe second wide receiver. There's an argument I think that could be made for that. Another player I thought that actually was surprisingly well in a strong tight end class was Darnell Washington. I think, at 6'7", him running I think it was like a 4.6 40.
4.65.
Insane for a guy his size. So you pair his blocking ability with the speed to separate at an NFL level, man, that's just a recipe for disaster for other defenses to account for. So I think, like we were saying earlier, hats off to all the players that were in here. But I think those two players really stood out in my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to. Some other guys that didn't get mentioned was obviously Bijan Robinson, Texas running back. Also, Pittsburgh defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey, who's a lot of similarities with Aaron Donald. Obviously, him being a Pittsburgh guy as well. He ran a 4.67 40-yard dash, which is the fastest by a defensive tackle. So, I wanted to point out that he was a winner. So was Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon, was also one of my winners. And then he had a pretty good combine as well. Just wanted to mention a couple guys that we didn't mention. But being in the combine losers, do you guys have any combine losers?
I do actually. I'll go. It sucks for me to say, but LSU wide receiver Kayshon Boutte did not have a great combine. His 40 time, very slow from what we thought it might be. He ran a 4.5. That's not the kind of speed or separation you want to see at, an NFL level and for a wide receiver especially. He had a 29-inch vertical, not that great. So I think he's going to fall down draft boards a little bit. Do I think he's going to be a bad player in the NFL? No. I think he can improve and, regain his form. But yeah, I think, he's one of the losers that I have on my board. Jordan Addison, I think, for what he's been hyped to be, it wasn't the worst combine, but it wasn't the best either. 34-inch vertical, 4.49 40, not the worst, not the best. I do think he falls a little bit compared to the other receivers. But yeah, those would be my two losers that I have for the draft, for the combine.
Okay.
It's funny. I was actually going to say Kayshon Boutte as well. With him, I guess I'll just add another point. Pretty much, I think it wasn't so bad as a combine as to say. I think he's just kind of like a loser for the combine for the fact that he wasn't, a workout warrior. Because with guys like that, a lot of his concerns were the medicals and even some of the off-field stuff. He probably got interviewed for it, but it would have been cool if he had a cool combine to show that, my foot injury is not affecting me. All those injuries that I had, it doesn't stop my ability to have a good workout. Like I said, it's not the end all be all. He could be a good player, especially on film. If you turn on his tape in 2021, he legit looks like an NFL receiver out there already. Things didn't go his way his senior season. I believe it was junior season. Yeah, his junior season in 2022. Things didn't really go his way. There's games where he wasn't really even seeing the field too much because potential conflict with head coach Brian Kelly. And there was also games where he was just kind of like blanked. I believe it was the first game of the season. He only had like 1 or 2 catches. So I think with him, it'll just be a return to form, mostly that he's going to have to do. Otherwise, I think, I don't think it spells the end of his career or anything. I just don't think he did anything to help his case, which makes him the loser in this sense. But I'm not really sure if it's hurting him because I'm not sure how teams even really viewed him in the first place. Another combine loser, and I hate to talk about this, I would probably say Jalen Carter. Not really for the things that had happened in the combine, more so just things that came out around the time of the combine, which is unfortunate timing because teams are going to interview him, and I think it happened like on the day they had leaked a bunch of stuff, like his arrest info and even like some videos and stuff like that. So he's going to get in that interview room and he's barely going to have like less than a day to even think of what he's going to respond to. So hopefully for him, for his case, he gets all that figured out and even maybe gets a therapist to help him out. A lot of the stuff is really unfortunate. And for, it goes beyond football. It really does. I would just hope that the teams were able to interview him and come out with a better understanding of who he actually is. And I hope that he was able to, answer some of those questions well. And I hope, I hope he turns around his life for the better. I mean, you never want to wish a bad situation upon people. Yeah. There's a couple lives lost, and it's a really unfortunate situation, but, that's what the world's about. It's about reform. So, hopefully he could turn everything around. He has a bright future ahead of him if he does, and the better person he is, the better his life will be. You have a chance to get paid millions and playing in the NFL. So, I think, I just think I really hope he interviewed well, and I hope he figures everything out.
Yeah, because he's expected to be, if not go number 1 to Chicago, he's gonna be in the top 5. So hopefully, that off the field issues doesn't ruin his draft stock, of course. Jake, any losers that you had?
The first one I'm going to touch on, I think, for me is Will Levis. I think he said he said in the presser that he was going to demonstrate his strong arm and whatnot, but he didn't do that. And I mean, you're in shorts and a shirt, running. These guys are running routes on air. Just air it out.
Well, pajamas. If you want to go off Dan Campbell's quote.
but instead, he was just worried about completing the pass. Let me just complete it and get it to the receiver. He wasn't driving the ball through the receiver. He was just trying to throw it at the receiver. Like, how do I put it? It's like in boxing. Like you're not taught to just hit the guy in front of you. You're taught to punch through the guy and hit and pretend like there's a guy behind them and you want to hit that guy. Like you kind of see what I'm saying here. It's same with throwing to a receiver. You want to drive the ball through him so that the ball gets there, and so that there's less risk for turnover. And he didn't really demonstrate that even in combine drills where you're just working versus air. And he's talking to the presser, saying that he was going to demonstrate his good arm, and he didn't really do that. And I'm kind of disappointed. I was expecting more. Hopefully he does better on his pro day and kind of rebounds from that. And he may be aware of that. He may not be aware of that. I don't know, but I hope he has a better time at his pro day and kind of raises his stock a little bit more. And then another one I'm going to touch on, and this isn't in a bad way, but Will Anderson, because he had a good combine. He tested really well. It's just that other guys tested better. So Anderson's not really getting the attention that he deserves. He still ran a good 40. Still ran, he had a good broad, good vertical. He tested everything, and he was doing it well. It's just that this is a very athletic and freakish edge class from what we've seen. And some guys just tested much better than Will Anderson, but he had a good combine. It's just that he's not. I just don't think he's getting the props that he deserves. And then, unless I can think of more, my last one, I'm gonna say Bryce Young. I think look, I get you gain the weight and you weigh in at 204. I know what you're trying to do, and it makes sense. But by not participating in literally any of the drills, like at all, like no broad, no vert, no 40, no throwing, it shows that you got something to hide. Like it tells me that he's not going to be playing the season at 204, which is what he was listed at. He's going to go back to what he was. He's going to be sub 200 when the season starts. And I don't know. I think he tried to get his stock up by getting his weight, and I get it. Like on the surface, it looks like a good idea, but then you don't participate in the other drills. And when you gain weight, you still got to do all that speed training and have your speed catch up with the weight gain. He gained 15 pounds since the season ended, or 10 pounds. I mean, he gained a significant amount of weight, I think. So you gotta also have your speed catch up with the weight gain, and apparently he didn't do that, or he may have done. I don't know, but I think if he did, he would have done the 40. I don't know. I just think I don't know. I just think he has something to hide with that whole weight gain by not doing that.
Jake's not buying the size.
I mean, I'm not.
We'll see. We'll see. What happens with that? Bryce Young's still my number one quarterback, but
and of course, I wish him all the best. I wish him all the best.
We'll see what happens. You pretty much named majority of the combine losers. I agree with majority of them. I won't say one's a loser, but one that's unfortunate was USC guard Andrew Voorhees tearing his ACL. So that's gonna definitely most likely won't be getting drafted now. Could have possibly been a day 2, maybe early day 3 guy, but probably won't be happening now unless someone still wants to take a flyer on that. But unfortunate. But yeah, that's pretty much NFL Combine talk that we have for y'all tonight. Before we head out, I just wanted to mention to go enter our giveaway that's on Instagram and Twitter.
Woo!
It's a jersey giveaway. This is the rules to the Instagram and at Twitter's. But yeah, pretty much go check out our socials on Twitter and Instagram. There's our pin post, pin tweet is the jersey giveaway. You have till St. Patrick's Day to enter. That's when the winner will be announced. Looking forward to that. It could be any jersey of your choice on NFLshop.com, valued at $129.99. So don't think too crazy. But yeah, looking forward to that. Just follow the rules and you're in. Subscribing to our YouTube channel gives you an extra entry, and looking forward to see who wins that jersey and what jersey they decide to choose. Will it be a Derek Carr Saints jersey? We'll see. But until then, man, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe one of these days we can give away a chain like this, man. That's pretty nice too. But yeah, we'll plan on doing future giveaways as well. Bringing in more content, more subscribers, more followers, all that good stuff. Anything y'all want to say before we head out tonight?
I'm getting me a Chosen Anderson jersey. I don't know about you guys.
Chosen Anderson.
A Chosen Anderson Steelers jersey, custom made.
XFL.
XFL. Okay.
Vegas Vipers Chosen Anderson jersey.
That's
Seattle Sea Dragon.
Hey, chosen by the XFL. That's what it's about.
Right. Yeah. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man. Until next time. I believe we have a mock draft coming up. Stay tuned to that. We're gonna have our first mock draft of the year coming up. Excited to do that. Stay tuned to that because mock drafts are always fun. And anything y'all want to say before we head out?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me, man. Great talking with y'all. Great to have you back, Jake. It doesn't feel complete without the fourth missing piece. It's always good, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll see you probably again, all of us on Wednesday. That'll be the full crew. We're gonna do a mock draft. So until next time, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, enter the giveaway, and we'll see you on the next video.